Everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday evening Ask the Doc call. My name is Lynn Matthews. I am here on Tuesday evenings with a dear friend and colleague, Dr. Carolyn Hoffman. And it's always such a pleasure to be here talking about this revolutionary way of approaching health and vitality. You know, in the past, really all we've had is to use things that mitigate symptoms, which is helpful, but it never gets to the root of the problem. And Redox is changing all of that. If that term is new to you, you are in good company. It was new to all of us until somebody had the courage to bring us, this information. And for me, it changed my family's life and continues to change our lives. Just know that Redox is the energy that powers all life. Literally nothing happens in your body, my body, our pets' bodies without a redox reaction. So tonight we're going to explore not only what redox is, but why it's so profound and why any of us should even care, right? What's in it for us? People look at this for a number of reasons, and you might see yourself in some of these reasons. I know for me, it was a couple of these reasons. Maybe you're here tonight because you have a health challenge, or you know someone, a friend, a neighbor, maybe a family member who has a challenge, and you're exploring whether or not redox could be the missing link. Perhaps you like to be proactive with your health. And looking at this to stay healthy. Maybe you're here because you heard there's some kind of athletic benefit to this, recovery, endurance, mental focus. And although, we do have professional athletes, we do have Olympic athletes on this, we certainly don't have to compete at that level or even be an athlete to benefit from more endurance, more recovery. I love to bike, I love to hike, and I love what this does for my recovery. I'm just never sore, which is amazing to me. Another reason people look at this is because they've heard something about anti-aging. We're all 24 hours older today than we were yesterday. What if we could find a way to turn back the clock? Not just on the physical signs of aging that we see when we look in the mirror, but even on the inside. Dr. Hoffman always reminds us that the wrinkles on the outside are simply a reflection of the wrinkles and the oxidative stress on the inside. So what if we could find something that could help all of that look and act and respond like it did when we were younger? And the last reason that people look at this is when you have something that is this profound, that is really a cutting edge technology that literally impacts every single person on the planet, there's an opportunity to make a bigger impact in the world, to change people's lives, and to generate a secondary income stream if that's what you'd like. We don't have as much time tonight to talk about that, but if that's something that resonates with you, come back on Saturday on the same Zoom ID and the same password. And Dr. Silverman will be talking about the product for a half hour, and then we switch gears, and he and my daughter Danielle will be talking about what it is like to link arms with amazing people and start to educate people around the world about this, because it is truly a gift for humanity. And it almost becomes a moral obligation. We don't want to keep it to ourselves. So again, that's at 10:30 on Saturday. But right now, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce, as I said, a dear friend and colleague, Dr. Carolyn Hoffman. She is a board certified traditional naturopath. She's been in that field for over 22 years. She's been working with this technology for at least 6 years or more. She's practiced in various wellness centers. She's had her own thriving private practice, and she is on the medical board for this company, which is a volunteer position. But what I love about that is not only does she bring her wealth of knowledge from 20 plus years in the medical field, but because she's working with the scientists and kind of behind the scenes with this technology, she really understands that at a depth that most people don't. She is in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I don't know that our paths would have ever crossed had it not been for this company. And so it's just a blessing, because the people you meet through this company are truly amazing people. So Carolyn, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I was just thinking to myself that here we are, we've been doing this together for probably at least 3 years, but so we're 3 years older than when we first started. But I don't think that we actually look 3 years older. So that's the beauty of Redox technology for you. So welcome everyone. It's always my privilege to spend some time with people who are interested in learning. And I think trying to be proactive about their health, I think that's the most important thing that you can be, is may we never know what we prevent is probably the most powerful statement. And health is in our own hands. And that's the cool piece. It's exciting, I think, is that we get to determine and influence where our health goes by the actions that we take. So you're actually giving yourself a gift by educating yourself tonight on something that I think is the single most important and most powerful technology that I've had the privilege of working with for the last 22 odd years. So I'm going to share my screen with you and put up some slides so that we can have a look at, let me see here, we get present, that's it. I can pull this across and show you some visuals as well as talk, because I think we learn in many different ways, and so it's important to have both of those aspects available. Now, let me show the slides, and I'll just expand the screen, and I think Lynn, thumbs up if we're good to go. All right, perfect. I like to think of this as learning the key to how we actually reset the master switch for the human body, because that's really what we're diving down to in this field of redox. It's how we can unlock sustained energy and vitality, and how we're really doing the most fundamental and foundational thing we can do to support our health and healing capacity. Body's designed to heal. It's not designed to promote sickness, but it does get knocked off course. And so it's our job to be able to provide it with something that can really be that foundational. So let's start with what we're really going to talk about. If you're using supplements, we're going to ask you to switch your approach and your mindset and stop thinking about individual symptoms. And I want you to just dial down to the fact that as a human, we're made up of 70 to 100 trillion cells. Those cells all formulate and create different organ systems and have their own personalities, just as much as our communities in our life have different personalities. But I like the visual of the fishbowl, because when we have perfectly clean cells, that's really what our cells should look like. And we are made up of this thing that we often think of as saline. This is this combination of water and salts that form the human waterway system. So one thing that we do know is that everything comes down to frequency. Health is about frequency, sickness is about frequency, and everything in between. And a healthy cell has a specific electrical charge. It's 70 to 100 milliwatts. So when our cells are super new, super healthy, when we are younger, we have lots more of these fully charged batteries doing the things that they need to do to keep us energetic all day long and accomplish everything that we want to achieve. So as I said, these cells form every major system in the human body. Obviously, cardiovascular cells have a different role to play than those in the respiratory system, but really health comes down to if those cells in any of these systems that you're looking at or any part of the human body are healthy, then that organ system is also going to operate and be healthy. So what does disease mean, and dis-ease and ill health? Well, it basically means that we have damaged cells in the respiratory system, for example, when we can't breathe very well. We have damaged cells in the cardiovascular system when we have challenges with our heart. So it really takes us away from looking at, as we've kind of been raised to do in the last century, let's think about a supplement for the fact that we can't breathe, or think about a supplement for the fact that our heart doesn't beat properly, or think about a supplement to solve the fact that we have a lot of bloating and gas and distension when we eat. So we can sweep that away and suddenly say, where's the cell that's out of whack, not working the way it should be, because that's the thing we need to support if we want to help us breathe better or our hearts beat properly. Now, Diminished frequency at a cellular level is very much associated with disease. And as a result of it, we can feel anything from being chronically exhausted, having a poor ability to recover from when we're sick or when we've cut ourselves, or literally be sick. And so that is all again about the frequency is very different than what it looks like for a healthy cell. When the cell voltage drops, there's a whole bunch of signaling that begins to stall out. It's no different than a computer communicating, right? Our cells no longer can detect when there's problems. The ability to delete an old and damaged cell or a sick cell and replace it with a healthy one fails. No, we can't repair damaged cells. We can't defend ourselves against viruses and bacteria and environmental toxins. We're not able to actually maintain optimal genetic signaling when we have a cell voltage that alters our redox potential. We can't repair DNA. We can't adequately combat inflammation. And we know that that is right at the forefront of the new field of medicine, which is called inflammaging. In other words, inflammation causing oxidative aging. We cannot respond and be resilient at a cell level. And also we begin to have a challenge with being able to hydrate our cells, and as a result of that, nutrients get clogged in them. And it gets worse if we're actually throwing tons of nutrient supplements at our cells and our cells aren't working properly. We're just adding to that toxicity, and basically the toxins get trapped inside the cell. So a huge amount of things are just falling apart, or at least certainly suboptimal, and therefore we have problems. And we think of this as cellular toxicity. Part of it comes because of age, right? We're around on this planet, and as Lynn said, we're a day older every single day. And with it comes this change in that cellular frequency and vibrancy. Stress challenges it, anything that we're not breathing in good oxygen and making everything move. We aren't doing nice sweaty activity to detox the cells. We're not drinking as much as we should do. We don't exercise. We sit in front of computers all day. Probably not what you're doing down in the villages, because I know you're out and about playing golf a lot, which is really good. But smoking really contributes to this, eating processed foods and all of the other things that we breathe in or we put on our skin. Now, that picture of the cell is really what happens. Our cells, instead of having nice, flexible outer membranes where everything can come and go and move freely, the cells begin to get rigid on the outside membrane, and that's why things don't happen. Everything gets locked inside. And part of why we need to clean out cells is that we need to help that move and be able to issue out what's stuck in there and get back to a nice, healthy cell. So we know that frequency allows us to have youthfulness and energy to be able to heal properly and be stress resilient. And that when we have anything less than that, we're going to promote this space of disease, inflammation, exhaustion, aging increases, anxiety, and nutrient deficiency. So in other words, not healthy. Age-associated cellular decline, and this is what it looks like, right? We look on the left a lot younger and more vibrant than we are as age and time progresses. And we see those wrinkles that Lynn talked about beginning to become a lot more evident as a result of the internal oxidation and inflammation. And if you look at this particular photo, we see the energy of that human body also dropping down. Older people don't have the same vibrancy and abundant energy that we do when we're younger. So redox, what is it? It is the essential operating system of the human body. It's how cells communicate. It's made up of something called reductants, which is the RED in redox, and oxidants, which is the OX. So science has combined those two processes to create this field of redox biology and medicine. And this is what enables the body to turn basically on and off cell switches to make things happen. As Lynn mentioned, literally nothing happens in the body without a redox signal operating a switch on or off for good. So when a cell is compromised by frequency, these signals switch on an alarm bell. And that is effectively really calling the 911 of the human body. The reductants respond to those emergency calls, and they locate the damaged cell, and then they move into action. And they trigger healing, which is basically turning off the switch and resetting everything back to normal. That's really what we call restoring homeostasis. So when we're in good health, this is a very vibrant system working very efficiently all the time to solve the problem and get us back in balance. Now we know from science that it shows us that redox changes with aging, that it's essential for us to be healthy, and that as those cell signaling molecules begin to diminish and we stay out of this balance, and this enables us to promote disease. So these signals literally regulate our very existence, and we actually die in a matter of minutes without them. They have a higher priority than even oxygen. We can live longer without breathing in oxygen than we can without producing redox signaling molecules. When I saw this study, this was just like I looked at this and I said, well, this is a no-brainer. You know, if I'm making these molecules, and I have to be because I'm alive and we're all making them as we speak, and they change with age and they're essential to health. And if I'm out of balance for too long, I'm promoting an environment that creates disease. And I now have an ability through technological scientific breakthrough to be able to rebuild something this foundational. To me, that's kind of like the need to eat food, right? We can't survive without these any more than we can survive without food. Well, why do things change? Science knows that in fact this shift, this loss of redox function diminishes at 1% per year from around puberty. So every decade we're losing 10%. And then the other side of the coin is not simply are we losing the quantity of these redox signaling molecules, but the ones that we have left are less efficient because they age too. So they don't work in the same way, much as things change between being 20 and 80, right? Someone is not as efficient or as strong when they're in the 80s. Redox biology of medicine is now the leading field of health science. Researchers are really seeking to understand these cell signaling essential molecules, both their implication for our health and how do they play into disease processes. So this is an example, just scratching the surface of all the universities that are looking at redox science. We've had 6 Nobel Prizes since the 1990s. On this field, which has just opened up this attention to something that is so foundational worldwide. If you're a nerd, go to the NIH and you can type in redox and you can cross-reference it with anything that you think of, whether it's cancer or lupus or arthritis, and you'll pull up all the studies that show you mechanisms. But other than nitric oxide, there are no redox-based drugs. That's actually what is bound up in nitroglycerin for anyone who has angina. It releases nitric oxide, and it's a signaling mechanism, and this is how we activate this process. It signals through the mucosal lining of the mouth. And if you put a nitroglycerin tablet under the tongue, it dissolves, it signals, it passes to the brain, and the brain sends the information to the heart. We're using, this is the pathway of how redox communicates within the human body. And it's what we use with our technology when we will place redox liquid in our mouth and swish it around for 15 to 30 seconds to allow those signals to go to the brain and then out to the body. This is an entirely different way of helping your body than actually popping a pill and expecting it to go through your stomach and get digested and broken down and delivered out to the bloodstream and the lymphatic system, and then to actually be picked up by cells. There's a huge gap between what gets in our mouth and what reaches a cell when we come to nutrition of that type, whereas this, 100% of it is picked up literally instantaneously that it contacts us. Scientifically, the challenge with redox has always been the stability of these highly reactive molecules. They donate their energy and then they convert back to the salt and water in nanoseconds of donating that charge out to a compromised cell. That's their goal. It's like they have a little ball of energy and they run around, where can I give it? They hand it off and then they go back to being salt and water again, ready to remake themselves. It's the most efficient recycling system on the planet. Now, a publicly traded company was researching these very same molecules for cardiovascular disease, HIV, and also diabetes. And they were making a product in limited quantities using small devices. Being so highly unstable, however, it had to be used within a matter of minutes because these molecules want to go to work. And so that was always what science said, well, you can't, there's no way to take something that within the body is that volatile and highly reactive and actually somehow suspend it outside the human body in a bioactive form. So this was the big challenge that science said couldn't happen. However, Verdis Norton, who was the retired vice president of strategy for Kraft Foods, was very skeptical when he met this company that was doing all this publicly traded research. And he was skeptical of a product that could be made from salt and water, as probably many of you might be if you're hearing about this tonight. I think we all are, right? Especially when we look at the bottle, because we're trapped into this nutritional arena within the United States. So we have to follow ingredient rules and actually write down what the ingredients are. So what do we put down? We put down the same thing that the body makes it from, because we can't make it any other way, salt and water. So people who have no clue that there's a huge $1 billion of infrastructure behind that processing kind of look at that and go, well, I can go to my kitchen and pour a glass of water and stick a bit of salt in there and I've got Redox. So he was equally skeptical, how can you make something out of salt and water? But after a lot of research, what he discovered was that this science that this company had been working on for 10 years was highly validated by a lot of these institutions that you can see on the screen. And the end result was that he got the opportunity to purchase the intellectual assets and 10 years of patents and research. And he tasked a new group of scientists who were able to do what science said was impossible, to successfully stabilize this product with a 12-month lifespan. Now, since 2009, when that happened, our science has exploded so much and our ability to measure what we have is literally down to batch by batch by batch, is literally precision measured for redox potential. And we now have a 21-month lifespan, so we've extended that even more. I would encourage you to look at the full story because it's really powerful, but Lynn will pick up on that for you tonight because we couldn't let you not know what is behind the ethos of this company at this pivotal moment here. But discover redox.com and the ASEA Genesis story. So our patented process literally replicates the mitochondrial production of redox signaling molecules within the ATP process of our cells. ATP, as you may remember, is how we make energy, but this is where redox is created within the mitochondria. The body breaks down the saline, right, the salt water that we're made of, into 4 atoms, which is sodium, chloride, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then it reconfigures them. It's like a fancy baking process or a Scrabble game, right, with a few tiles in front of you. How many words can you make out of this? And the body says, how many redox molecules can we reorganize from those 4 ingredients? And we know of at least 16. It may be that there's more nobody knows at this point, and science may prove us wrong later on or may develop. But we have around 16 redox molecules that have been established. And so we reconfigure it into these redox molecules with this lifespan of 21 months. And what you have in that bottle is stabilized. I think of it as like suspended energy molecules, just suspended in a minor amount of saline, ready to go to work. And who's the spark that makes them work? Well, the human body. So when we put it in our mouth, we are actually like striking a match that triggers off these molecules and they do their work. This is the FDA registered and NSF and GMP compliant production facility. It's the only one in the world based in Utah that makes these stabilized redox molecules. It supplies 35 countries worldwide, and it delivers directly from this factory to every consumer around the world. And this is fully guaranteed with no middlemen, no third-party retailers, or risk of fake or even contaminated products on the market. So we want to make sure that when people get it, they get it from here, because we turn over our product very quickly. About 90-day turnover for the worldwide supply. So we know and we can guarantee what we have. So don't go buying it from anybody else, because you also want to be guided. This is a very unique technology, and we have this huge community of experience, and we're going to be able to help you with the person that you're working with, make sure that you take the right journey that gives you exactly the outcome you're looking for. Now, clinical studies show some important things, that this is non-toxic, totally non-toxic. We have bottles here, they're 32-ounce bottles. They actually get filled with a bit more than that. People who are really sick might even drink the whole bottle. Hopefully you don't need that, but it is totally non-toxic. If you consumed a lot more than you needed, it would just convert it back to saline. It is allergy-free. Why is that? Because you, me, as Lynn said, and pets and plants exist because of redox. We're making it as we speak, and so we can't be allergic to something that's literally native and identical to what's already in us. And probably from my perspective as a practitioner, unlike supplements that come in pills and potions, even, for example, even the ones that we have at ASEA, which are organic, non-GMO, whole food, right? You think, well, that's exactly perfect. But, you know, everything can interact with medication. The beauty about this is that this is totally transparent to medication. So in other words, this is the safest thing I can ever offer someone without interfering with any medication that they might be on. And we wouldn't want you to change your medication. Stay on your medication, benchmark everything about where you feel you are in your health, take this on board and keep tracking those changes. You might see some changes as the body begins to say, oh, this is really nice. I've got some additional redox, and, you know, I kind of lost that a year or two ago, but now you're giving it back to me, and I can kind of get back to a space where I felt better and did more things 2 years ago. So we have a lot of people who work with their doctors, and eventually the doctors might say, you know, it doesn't look like you need your thyroid medication anymore, or it doesn't look like you need your insulin anymore, or maybe you don't need your blood pressure medication. It's not our job or a right or legal ability to be able to make those changes. You work with your doctor on that, but track the changes and you'll begin to see kind of what your body's doing. We are Redox certified by independent third-party redox laboratories around the world. So in other words, everything is tested and guaranteed. And this product is certified to prove that this product is made of highly energetic, stabilized redox signaling molecules, not salt water. This company remains the first and only company to not only do this breakthrough in science, but still produce redox signaling. No one else has done this. You can't reverse engineer what we have, because it's not physical materials that somebody can analyze and pour out and say, oh, this is made up of vitamin A and C and B, and I can put together a different formulation of the same thing. The process is what makes us unique, and there's no way you can analyze the process that this goes through. So we still remain, even though this came to market in 2009, as the only company doing what we're doing. We continue to lead that redox-based technology field, but this is where we started. These are all our pure redox technology products. It took them about 5 years after being able to develop this to be able to develop the first topical application. This is the same as the liquid. It's concentrated twice as much. And 5 years of what? Well, researching how do you actually combine this liquid that wants to go to work with something that won't make it work until it comes in contact with us. And it took them 5 years to discover silica. And so we have this topical application, and we're able to actually apply it to the skin. We'll talk about some other benefits for it in a minute. Renew Advanced Serum is the use of dimethicone instead of silica. This is twice as concentrated as the Renew 28. Beautiful for these fine lines and wrinkles, all the little things that you might use, a different formulation, but again, pure redox. Our most recent addition is the Redox Clay. It took 3 years to source out a very pure version of bentonite and be able to put that together with the Redox. This is designed to purify the skin, to tighten the skin. It's the ultimate anti-aging product. It's phenomenal. It actually does some really unusual things because the Redox is naturally hydrates the cells. This does not dry you out in the way that traditional bentonite clay products might do. But we do have our athletes using this, and they'll use it for injuries to help drive the Redox in deeper, or for sore muscles, for example. So the rest of us love it for all the anti-aging stuff on the face, but you'll find that they're putting it on their muscles or wherever they decide is beneficial. And so we have those 4 uses of pure Redox, and I'll talk a little bit more about the development beyond that. But Renew 28 is called that because of 2 28-day studies. And the results of that are really amazing. I don't know any other product that literally can turn back time by 16% in 28 days. It's helping your skin cell renewal speed up again. When we're in our 20s, it does turn over at about 28 days. But by the time we're 50, it's taking 90 days to do what we could do in 28 days. And so that's why our skin looks different. So using this daily is going to help combat age, and you'll see some really amazing examples of how much younger people begin to look if they keep using it. But phenomenal changes with elasticity, wrinkles, and improving blood flow from 4 ingredients, none of which are toxic, and you can actually pronounce them, unlike a lot of the things that you'll buy on the market that have a lot of xenoestrogens in there and a lot of toxic chemicals that go into the body, because when we put things on the skin, it bypasses the liver, so we're much more susceptible to what's in there. This is the show and tell, so to speak, of the Renew 28. So here's examples of those statistics. Outcomes for tone, right, for elasticity, for radiance, for fine lines, the changes that these people saw within 28 days. Remember, our skin is our largest organ, so we don't just have to combat aging on our face. We can put it wherever we would like to improve skin function. They did an additional study on cellulite, and we have a 16% improvement on the size and the fluffiness of cellulite. So we've had some people use that in some interesting spots. We soothe irritated skin because redox function, if you remember from an earlier slide, one of the functions of a redox molecule within the human body is to combat inflammation. And so we have this ability to soothe irritated skin. A lot of us, once we get used to it, this really replaces everything in your bathroom cabinet, and you'll use it for things like cuts and bruises and itching and rashes and stings. It becomes pretty universal. Lynn mentioned that we have a lot of Olympic athletes and professional athletes using this product. As she said, we do not have to be any of these, but you could maybe be a weekend warrior. You might be a semi-professional, or you just might want to stay healthy by exercising as long as possible in your life. Or maybe you just love to have a bit more energy for your everyday existence, right? Redox Drink and the Renew 28 really fuels the performance of these athletes. The sports studies done in North Carolina show that it provides 29% increased endurance, sharper mental focus, faster recovery. And so that's how we can think about, well, if it does this for an athlete, what could that mean if we can have 29% more energy in our life? I don't know if you're getting to the end of the day and you can't do the things that you did maybe 10 years ago, or maybe, tiredness and fatigue and a lack of energy in those cells, those cellular batteries dropping, mean that you hit the coffee pot at 10 o'clock and 3, right? Or maybe you come home from work and you sit on the couch and 2 minutes later you're fast asleep. So think about how you can power up those cells and benefit from that additional 29% increase in endurance. If you want to know more about the athletic side, again, look at discoverredox.com and you'll see a lot of information there. But when we use the liquid, we're working internally and we're working what we call non-specifically. We're going to empower every single cell to pick up the energy from that redox and decide how it goes to work. So we don't always have the capacity to swallow it and go, wow, I can feel that, right? But we do have this interesting way of being able to find out what redox is doing pretty quickly with the gel. I mentioned it's anti-aging, but it has a really unique capacity to help us when we have things that hurt, or maybe things that don't move as well as they used to. And this was how I decided to take it into my practice. And I decided to do exactly what Dr. David Silverman had shown me at an event I went to. And he had demonstrated how we can use this to show people in under 10 minutes that when you give Redox on the skin, it doesn't have to go through the mouth. The body's already picking it up and it's saying, where do I need it? And if you put it where it hurts, it can really help the body pick up the load and start to do the things it's kind of forgotten how to do. And so the cool piece is, if you haven't experienced this, ask the person who invited you to the call to demonstrate it if you can, if you're physically near them. Take the gel, but first of all, let's measure whatever it is that you have that doesn't work as well as you want to. Maybe your knees are sore and you can't climb the stairs as much as you used to. Perhaps your shoulders are stiff or your neck is stiff. Maybe like Lynn, I know your challenge was you couldn't close your fists so easily. You had a lot of really stiff joints. Right, so measure that from 1 to 10. 10 is really bad. 1 is not so significant. And take the gel, shake it because it is the liquid with a minimal amount of silica so that we could have as little as possible in there. You'll see that it's totally clear. Once you've rated that level of discomfort, take a good dollop of it and apply it to the area that's going to cause a problem. You can see it's totally clear, doesn't have a smell at all, and it's not about absorption. It's actually already kicking off those molecules and going to work the moment it touches me. But apply it 3 times in 5 minutes, wait 5 minutes, and then check out whatever it was a challenge for you. I took this into my practice because I really wasn't certain what I wanted to do with it, but I had seen it change people in under 10 minutes at an event, so I was kind of curious. Now, sometimes we watch other people do those things, but there's still a degree of skepticism, right? So Dr. Silverman said, well, go take your gel, you know, while you're drinking this and waiting for your aha moment and to see what the body's going to do with it, go put it on 10 people and build your own belief about whether you think this is valuable. So I went into my practice, and every time anyone came in who had a problem, I was saying, you know what, I'm trying out a new product. Can you do me a favor and give me some feedback? And we would do exactly that. Rate the discomfort, apply the gel 3 times, 5 minutes, wait 5 minutes, and then check it out. If you've got something that doesn't move, take photos as well, because photos are very telling. And sometimes we don't always feel how much things change, but when we see those photos, it's kind of amazing. But let me show you examples of the breadth of changes that I saw, things from an 8 to a 0 in 2 minutes with a hip problem. So someone about to have a hip replacement. Congested sinuses, 7 to a 3 in 10 minutes. Head discomfort and light sensitivity, 7 to a 4 in 10 minutes. Rib displacement, 6 to a 2 in 10 minutes. Foot shooting sensations that this person had had for about 5 years, and it went from a 10 to a 0 in 10 minutes and lasted 10 hours for them. Over time of constant and repeated use over a period of time, the body seemed to be able to pick up whatever the challenge was, and 4 months later, instead of being stuck for 5 years, not being able to wear closed-toed shoes or anything on their feet because of sensitivity, they were back to normal again and living a normal life. And that was back in 2017. Stomach discomfort, you know, years of hip discomfort, broken toes that my clients would call me the following day and say, you know what, that bruising's gone away and I don't have any more discomfort, so I'm not calling my regular doctor for pain meds. So what I want you to think about here is, what have they all got in common? Because they're all different locations, they're all different types of problems. What they have in common is cells that were damaged and not working properly and not giving the communication signal to finish the healing. What we did was fire hose that problem with the gel, put a whole bunch of Redox right on the spot, and allow the body to kind of pick up and do that work that it needed to. I moved into testing out the liquid, and this was where I began. And many of us talk about the fact we all throw things at our husbands. The naturopaths that I know, every single one of them said they tested this stuff on their husband first. So they're our guinea pigs. But my husband had suffered for 22 years with not being able to exercise sufficiently as well as breathe at the same time. Had a lot of assistive technologies, and if we could not keep it under control, he often ended up with ER visits. That when we finally looked at the fact that we weren't visiting the ER anymore after we got him on the ASEAS consistently, we realized how much money we were saving ourselves on those ER visits without even being taken into the long term. We use, and I will say in 22 years, there wasn't a single thing that I hadn't tried with him, right? That, you know, in order to try and overcome this and help him have a healthier life. But I gave him some of this out of abject curiosity more than anything. He drank 4 ounces a day for the first week. He started moving differently. I could see that. But we did this double up to 8 ounces. We fire hose the system quicker in the second week. And that changed everything, because at that point he was then able to go out and work for 8 hours in the yard, climb trees, chainsaw down things. He didn't need his inhalers, and he's super sensitive to poison ivy. Had an engagement with poison ivy, and we spritzed the liquid over his arms, and at the end of the day it was gone instead of having a prednisone pack. That was my aha moment. It was like, you know, it seems too good to be true. How can all of that happen just like this? And I had to know, you know, what was this that I got my hands on, because nothing else had ever made that kind of a change for him. As I read the biology books, I had a client referred to me who was suffering from challenges of autoimmune, 3 co-infections in 30 years, didn't have a life, all the challenges that one has with this couldn't work. And as I read through the books, I kept thinking, I wonder if this is the missing link that will help pull everything together. She tried all sorts of things, traditional and non-traditional. And before she came to see me, I just called her up and I said, I don't know, but I'm just wondering, this is not something you've ever done before, because it's how the cells talk to themselves and between themselves. It's not nutrition, it's not CBD oils, it's not essential oils, it's none of those things, but maybe this might be the thing that you're looking for, and you might want to try this before you come and see me. Do it for 3 months. Maybe you might not even need me. And I said, that's your choice. But she decided to do it. And 30 days after that, this woman had a 90% shift in her health. I was completely blown away again. Again, it seemed too good to be true. How can all those things alter? She's now back at work, living a fully functional life. But I realized I got my hands on something extremely unique and very different. I mentioned we have to fix the cell if we want to be well. So there's my journey through the fact that it doesn't matter what cell it is, whether it was my chiropractor and his skin issues, whether it was a client who was losing her hair and had hormonal challenges that the doctors wouldn't address, but now 3 years in has been off her medication for 3 years and continues to be well, whether it's a 70-year-old person who used to love to skydive, right, and was losing his energy, and he had a drop foot problem and has now been able to resume his life where he thought that that wasn't going to be part of his future. Again, it does not matter what the challenge is. It all comes down to the cell. If the cells are healthy, we're going to be healthy. Toric Labs is a study that I think is really unique, and we're just going to pass on this fairly quickly. It's an 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled study at the genetic level. How does redox influence, our ASEA redox influence? 100% of the test group of 35-year-olds had a 20 to 31% sustained and beneficial improvement in 5 genetic pathways: immune system, gut health, body's ability to respond to external stresses, cardiovascular health, inflammation, hormone levels. That is an amazing bullseye that is going to affect a lot of people, whether you have a challenge in that area or not. We need strong genetic function if we want to stay healthy. And the placebo, which was the saline, had a 0% response. Genes are like domino effects. They open a cascade across pathways to affect all sorts of things. Here is the inflammatory gene signaling pathway. We're not going to go through all the fancy names. What I want you to look at is what's in blue. If that pathway is strong, then you're going to have, if pathway number 1 is strong, you're going to have very even mood. You're probably going to be a very happy person. You're going to have a healthy gut, right? If you don't have either of those, that pathway is probably not working as well as it should. We need strong brain function for pathway 2. We all need to sleep really brilliantly because that's so important for everyone. Internal antioxidants, stem cell differentiation, thyroid signaling pathway. And Dr. James Watson has written extensively in The Lancet about the fact that he considers not only diabetes to be a redox deficiency, but in fact all diseases to be a deficiency in redox. We have a lot of additional studies that show that we improve the effectiveness of our own master antioxidant glutathione by 800%. Our recent studies show that we also increase the production by 60%. That's massively important. That's the most important antioxidant going around in the body that we could ever have. Much, much more important than anything that we can physically consume as an antioxidant. And so we have a lot of studies that prove what goes on for us within these redox molecules. I mentioned that everything I showed you earlier was pure redox. We have continued to broaden the space of redox understanding and science. And these are all based around how do nutrients, highly effective nutrients, target cell function to produce redox reactions within the cell. So we can target with beautiful on-the-go powders that you put into water, energy in the yellow, mind and function and cognition in the red, mood and anxiety and depression on the blue, and those can all be added together. You can use them up to 3 times a day, and they work short-term and they work long-term on function. And the purple one is very popular because that's a vegan collagen, and it's not one that the body has to break down and rebuild. We've given it the perfect amino acids so that it can just go straight to work. We support skincare with Redox Science in our Redox Advanced Skincare program. And then we provide materials with, as I said, organic, non-GMO, whole food, and with the exception of omega, which is fish, they are also vegan materials. We need materials to work synergistically with the redox, and so that makes up for the things that are not in our food supply. How much can you recharge your cells? Well, if you drink the redox, what we find is if you're drinking 4 ounces a day, 10 to 15% of people will have charged up enough of their batteries to begin to feel something. At 2 to 4 weeks in, we'll see 50% of people have charged up enough batteries to actually begin to notice the improvements they're looking for. But we do know that 90% of people are seeing these amazing benefits that they want by recharging their cells by the time we get to 3 months. How do we actually improve that? Well, how do you speed it up, right? How do you charge your cells faster? Well, actually what you do is you move to a higher quantity. Right? Think of lightning chargers for Apple phones. They charge the batteries in the cell phones much quicker than the regular ones do. 6 ounces a day or more, because it's non-toxic, so you can consume more, will help just refill those coffers, recharge those cells quicker, and they really propel people to seeing and feeling what it's doing at a swifter pace. So 6 is really a very effective amount, and because our science has developed so much, it really has much more the power that we used to have in 8 ounces when the product first came to market. I mentioned benchmark. Benchmark everything about it. The person who's invited you can help you benchmark your starting point, what changes in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. If you get to week 4 and you're not seeing what you're hoping for at the 4 ounce amount, double up and certainly push it to 8 ounces. Just keep pushing the quantity until your body says, great, I've now got what I need. Here's what I'm doing with it. And then you can kind of pull it back down and find your sweet spot. This is like the sleep number bed. Your number is going to be unique to you. And that's what makes this very unique. This is the example of what actually happens when we recharge the cells. This is the story of Rosie, who at 84 on the right, started this product, and you can see lots of inflammation in that face, lots of aging, lack of energy. This is her at 7 weeks. Take photos. She didn't think it was doing anything, and her son was smart enough to have taken a photo of her. But this is her at 87, and here she is at 91. I will always say, I have no single product in 22 odd years, 23 years, no single product that could actually do what this is doing. Take somebody from 84 to 91 and really make them look at least 10 years younger than when they started. This is interrupting the breakdown of aging. This is interrupting the inflammaging that is plaguing our society. This is redoxscience.com. If you're a real nerd and you want to go into all of the articles that are being published, this is a great space to get into. There's a lot of stuff. If you're less concerned about the science and more concerned about what can it do for me and the results, these are wonderful places that you can find out that information. The person that invited you will help you get there. I'm going to spot over to Lynn, and we're going to pick up on the really important piece of Vertis's decision to not sell this to a pharmaceutical company.
It's probably one of my favorite parts of this entire journey with ASEA. You had mentioned that he got his hands on this technology and that he hired a team of scientists to stabilize it and figure out what it was. And while he was doing that, you know, Vertis Norton was an incredible visionary, and he just intuitively knew that what he had was groundbreaking. So for him, he was thinking more of it from a business perspective, and that it was just going to be a business play where he would stabilize it and then sell it. He felt the pharmaceutical industry would be the best place to sell it because they could bring it to the world. So while his team was figuring out how to stabilize it, he got 40 people on the product. It was a focus group for him. These were friends, neighbors, church members, people who had varying levels of health challenges. 6 of them very serious, on hospice, told to get their affairs in order, and they had unlimited access to these redox molecules. And in the meantime, he was talking to different pharmaceutical companies, and one of them was very interested. They flew their top scientists in, their CEO came in, and they looked at all this research from this previous company. They looked at all the things his scientists had done, and they were very impressed. And they offered him a very, very large sum of money. But what he realized as they were going through these negotiations was they had a caveat, and that was that everyone who he had on the product, including himself and his family and all the people in his focus group, would have to come off it. And he realized that they were not going to make this publicly available. And that was the point at which he decided to turn down that large sum of money and start this company called ASEA. And as he was making that decision, you know, he went back to this focus group and found out that these 40 people had been giving it to friends and family members. So 120 people were now using it, and it was in 20 different countries, unbeknownst to him. And the 6 people who had that serious challenge seemed to be thriving. So he decided that he would bring this to market. It would be his gift, his legacy to mankind. And as he was looking at different ways to bring it to market, he realized that, as Dr. Hoffman said earlier, you know, you can't put this on a shelf because we've been trained to look at the ingredients. And if someone sees something that is made of sodium chloride and water, and even though it's got the label on it saying it's Redox certified, most of us don't know what Redox is yet. So he realized it had to be brought to market a different way. And that's why he chose word of mouth. And he knew that industry, the network marketing industry, didn't have the most stellar reputation, and he wanted to ensure that ASEA would be different. He wanted it to raise the bar for the industry, have it then be completely transparent and become that we've, you know, termed recently a next level marketing company. And so he created a company and a culture that truly values people and purpose and principle above their own egos, above the economics and the profits. And one nice thing is, because this is a privately held company, they don't have shareholders who are profit driven, who they have to answer to. So they always run the decisions through this barometer of people and purpose and principles before they make their final decision on things. They wanted a company that would cultivate relationships, not just be transactional. Right. And I think you'll see that if you've been working with someone and they brought you to this, that it's about serving the person in front of you. It really is. And so this is the ethos that they created 15 years ago. And it runs deeply through both the corporate side and any of the people like myself and many people on this call who have felt moved to link arms with this company and start to make a difference in the world. And I just have watched this ethos grow stronger and stronger in the 10 years that I have been involved with it. And for me personally, and I know Dr. Hoffman feels this way, it's just as important to us as these life-changing products are. Now, it's a company that has a soul. They are truly humanitarian oriented. They always put people first and teach all of us to value people as people, not just objects, not just as a transaction at the end of the day. And it's such a fun group of people to know. They're all compassionate. They're serious, but also we have fun when we're all together. And so if that's something that starts to resonate